Well, good Monday morning, everyone. Did you have a good Easter yesterday? I pray and hope that you did. I know we did, and I loved our services. And Pastor Andy did a great job of explaining exactly what happened. And I'm sure that it was a blessing to you. Hey, this week I thought a good follow-up for what was Easter would be, what if we were to talk about five of the proofs that Jesus was indeed resurrected? Would that be helpful to you? I think it would. I mean, I don't know what your experience was yesterday, uh, but we celebrated that resurrection. There's several ways we know it's true, and the biggest one of all, of course, is that it's found in the Bible. And the Bible is true. We've talked about that many times. The evidence is just for that. So if it's in the Bible, we know it's true. However, for those who don't yet believe or even know that faith, that the Bible is there, what other proofs are there? Well, there are numerous. We're going to talk this week about five of those. For me, just reviewing those things strengthened my faith. And I pray that it does that for you also. Or if in your faith journey, you're just deciding, still on the way to deciding whether this whole thing is true or not, maybe it'll help you to advance in that. Okay? So here we go. First proof, and this would be counted in our courts of law, absolutely. And that is the evidence of all the eyewitness testimonies. Eyewitness testimonies. In most court trials, that's like one of the, maybe the best thing. I saw it. I know it's true. And such happened. And sometimes those can contradict a little bit, but in this case, they do not. And there are hundreds of testimonies, maybe more than that. However, they don't contradict. Now, this is very, very significant. Let me ask you this question, and I know for me, it's one that I hadn't really thought about. Have you ever thought about why did God allow such harsh persecution on those first century Christians? I mean, wouldn't the Lord have been excited and happy that so many were turning to him and placing their faith in his son, Jesus Christ? And wouldn't that have, why would he then allow them to be beaten and tortured and many killed for their faith? Why, Lord? Well, I don't know all the reasons to that, but I do know one. And that is that it totally allows us to believe that their testimony of Jesus's resurrection was true. And here's why. If you are willing to die for your faith, then you believe that faith to be true. Now, there are people who die for their faith. For instance, on September 11th, the Muslims who hijacked the planes and they crashed them believed that they would immediately go to heaven and that they were doing the right things and that, in fact, they would be rewarded for that. They believed it. Sadly, their belief was not based in fact. It was based on traditions and handed down to them and falsehood. It was not true. But they didn't know it. And see, that is the huge thing that makes the early Christian martyrs, those people who died for their faith in the first century, they knew for sure because they were there. They saw the risen Jesus. They knew for sure whether it was true or it was not true. The Muslims who weren't there when those things happened didn't know. The Christians did know. How could it be verified any stronger than that people saw the risen Jesus, place their faith in him, then persecution came, and then all they had to do, according, by the way, to secular history, written not only in the book of Acts, but also it's called Pliny's letter to Trajan, and various other secular historians, including Josephus, that we still have today, and talk about the Christian, not only martyrs, but those who suffered for their faith. And all they had to do was one thing only. And you can definitely read about this in Acts, the book of Acts. All they had to do was renounce their faith. If they would say, okay, I'm not a follower of Christ, and what I said I saw, I did not see, and therefore, please stop persecuting me, don't kill me, and those things would have stopped. They would not have happened. But you see, that did not happen. No, they endured the suffering, and they proclaimed Christ's resurrection until their very death. Now, the first martyr is Stephen in Acts chapter 7. There were many, many who followed him, but you can read about Stephen, and he even was offered that. Instead, he tells them that this very Jesus whom they crucified, he made it worse. He just said, you killed him. But it didn't matter because he didn't stay dead. He rose from the dead. And then Stephen was killed and joined Jesus in death of his body. But even as Stephen is dying, he's given a glimpse into heaven to say, Stephen, you've seen the risen Lord. Now you're going to see into heaven where you'll be going. And he did. And he did. And that same thing is true. I mean, there's hundreds of witnesses in this who did this, but think of the apostles themselves. Those who had lived with Jesus for those 3 years, when he's being killed and crucified, where were they? None of them were around. Except Peter, who denied that he even knew Jesus. No, they were not there. At that point, they were acting cowardly. And then come Sunday, Easter Sunday, and they see the risen Lord, their life changed. And virtually every one of the apostles, what witnesses, what court trial could they testify in that wouldn't accept their testimony? Because indeed, virtually all of them, after having hid in fear for their lives, following the resurrection, they take to the streets and boldly proclaim the resurrection and endure persecution for doing so. You see, they would have known whether it was true or it was not true. And they knew it was true. Why the dramatic sudden change? It certainly was not for financial gain, was it? Or status, or anything else. No, they gave up everything to preach that the resurrection of Jesus was true, including their lives. They gave it up. Wow. So the first is tremendous witnesses. We're going to have other ones every day this week. I don't think it's a week you want to miss any day. Hey, God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Come to the Father through Jesus the Son, and give